The worst part about getting older is getting physically weaker, because your mind thinks, I can pick that up. Oh, 400 pounds, I got that. Because 10 years ago, I could have picked that up. But today, oh man, in your mid-40s, time starts taking its toll. But your brain is slow to catch up. When we last spoke about a month ago, I was in India and I had to rush home because Sam and her parents and our house was getting hit by a Category 4 Hurricane Ian. And that was a month ago, little over a month ago, almost a month and a half ago now. Since then, basically all I've been doing is picking up sticks and cutting down trees and hauling tree limbs to the road because it devastated the landscaping. A ton of trees got knocked down, bushes and limbs. But surprisingly, the house made out okay. No major damage to the house, no injuries to the family. And so in that respect, we made out tremendously well. A lot of other people in Southwest Florida were not as lucky. A lot of houses were completely destroyed, especially on the south end of Pine Island, the Matlacha area, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, totally devastated. And a lot of people died. The death count isn't that high right now, but I think that's because a lot of people are not confirmed dead. But if I had to guess, I would say close to 1,000 people may have lost their lives. And so it's been real sad. It's been real sad to be here. Because although not much has happened to us, I mean, we've had to do a lot of yard work and we were out of power for, I think, like a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. Relatively speaking, compared to everyone else, we made out pretty good. And the community really came together here on Pine Island. Everyone was helping everyone out, lending people generators and helping them out with food. Still to this day, there's people giving away food and water and a lot of community support, and it was really good to see the community come together like that. But it's just been sad. It's been sad seeing the destruction and seeing what everybody's going through. The bridge and part of the road that connects Pine Island, where we live, to the mainland was washed out. However, that was rebuilt within a week, so that was surprising because initially they were saying it was going to take, you know, maybe 6 months to get that done. And they were urging people to evacuate. And the only way to get onto the island, in fact, the way when I got back from India, how I got back here was by boat because the road and the bridge were completely out. And I thought we were going to be in a situation where we were going to be doing boat runs to the mainland for fuel and supplies for 6 months or longer. And surprisingly, that road was built back pretty quick. But just going through these areas that have been destroyed and seeing people who lost everything, including family members and houses and all their possessions, it really is devastating. And so I haven't really felt like making a video talking about this stuff because it's a real bummer, man, looking at the destruction of it. But then I started thinking, you know, there's a lot of good that came out of this as well. There's a lot of positivity, like I mentioned, the community coming together and getting to know your neighbor. People who have lived next door to each other for maybe 20 or 30 years and maybe hardly ever spoke really came together to form that community and relay information and communicate and check on each other, make sure if they were okay, if they needed anything, and now in the cleanup, helping each other clean up. And it's been good in that sense, seeing that community come together. After I graduated college in 2002, I was living in New York City. I was waiting tables at a Mexican restaurant downtown near Wall Street, right across from Ground Zero. Every day, I would get off the subway and I would walk past Ground Zero on my way to work, and then after work I would walk past Ground Zero again on the way back to the subway. The feeling was similar in that area right after 9/11. It's similar to what I feel here now. Immense pain and immense loss. 3 or 4 months ago, we went up to the Northeast to visit family, and I was back in that neighborhood for the first time in a long time, maybe 17 years. And it blew my mind to see that community, that neighborhood, was full of life again. And I think a lot of that had to do with the new Freedom Tower being up, but just a ton of people, a ton of tourists, and the energy was totally different. And I'm really hopeful that the same is going to be true about Southwest Florida. You know, the people here have really demonstrated to me like their resilience and their community spirit, and they don't want to go anywhere. So in terms of the grand scheme of things, Sam and I are doing relatively well. Some of you have asked, you know, what's the next adventure and what's the What are the plans? And that's not so easy to answer right now. You know, initially I had planned on being in India for 5 weeks and I had a ton of amazing things planned. And to get that last minute flight back here, I spent half of my budget, half of my 5-week budget in India just on that return flight. In terms of what I have planned, especially for adventures or videos on this channel, right now it's kind of hard to say. There was a big part of me that was going to use that India trip as kind of perhaps the last hurrah of me on YouTube. I was going to crank out as many videos as I could in those 5 weeks and see if I could get some substantial growth on the channel. And I had thought possibly if that didn't happen that I might wrap it up on YouTube. It's been, you know, almost 7 years making videos, and sometimes more consistent than others, and since we've been back from New Zealand, I've just hit a kind of creative wall. My motivation to make videos has been seriously diminished. I don't feel like I'm getting the same joy out of it that I once was. I've found it hard to make videos here in Florida. There's not quite as many things to do, especially in the area where we're living, in terms of the stuff that I used to make videos about. I don't know what's next. I think at this point I am not ready to stop making videos, as evidenced by the fact that this is a video that I'm making. But I just don't know what's next, what the future holds in terms of adventures and traveling. I'm sure we're gonna be doing stuff, but I just don't know like when and what, and even if I'll be making videos about them. I probably will. One thing I've learned over the years is that when YouTubers complain about how hard it is to be a YouTuber, nobody cares. Because, you know, you don't have to do this. And so it's not that I'm complaining about YouTube, I just was feeling some burnout. You know, feeling burnout from the amount of hours I was putting in and what I was getting out of it. My initial plan was to try to make it successful, to try to make it sustainable. You know, like so many other people have done, to travel and make videos and live that way. And I have not been able to shake the feeling that I have failed in that attempt. That when we left LA, that was my goal, and now we're back in the States, and I did not meet that goal. And so part of the problem is that I have been comparing myself to other people. And that's why, for me, the India trip was gonna be my litmus test. Was like, if I can crank out 100 videos in India and then they don't take off, then I guess it's not meant to be, because I've seen so many people in the past few years go to India, and I wanted to go to India. I wanted to explore a lot of places. But India is set to be one of the, I think it's the second biggest country in the world. It's about to pass China as the biggest country in the world in terms of population. And so to get an audience in India is a big deal, because there's a lot of people. It's such a unique place too to make videos and stuff, and they have unique, diverse landscapes, and I was really pumped to do that. And so even though it's not true in my mind, because I didn't accomplish my 5 weeks in India cranking out maybe 100 videos, again, I feel like I failed in something else. But really, it's just because I'm comparing my channel and my experience to other people's channels and other people's experience. And so that is completely the wrong mindset. And this hurricane is a perfect example of why comparison is the thief of joy, they say. That's not my quote. Somebody else smarter than me said that. Comparison is the thief of joy. Because when you start comparing yourself, you start getting on the pity pot, you start pitying yourself, and it's like, cry me a river. Like, people died, that people lost their houses, and you're crying about, oh, YouTube, and like seemingly meaningless crap, you know? And it ties into what I was saying earlier about getting older, and my brain has to catch up with my body. I'm comparing myself to what I used to be able to do 10, 15 years ago. All that does is put you in a place of, I don't know, pity, self-pity, doubt, confusion, depression, and I don't want to be in that place. And so what I'm trying to focus on is gratitude. I'm grateful for those of you who have joined me on this journey up to this point. I'm grateful that no one got injured in my family. Our house made it out unscathed. I'm grateful that I've had the experiences, that I even had the opportunity to go to India for 41 hours. I'm grateful. So gratitude is something I need to focus on tremendously now. And I think that wherever this journey takes us, that's where we're gonna go. So I'm not quite ready to throw in the towel. Plenty more adventures coming. But in the meantime, get out there, find your adventure, and be infamous.